Welcome. Hi, I'm Brian Schiff. Welcome to another show. Tonight's going to be another evening full of Schiff, and we're going to have a lot of good entertainment and a lot of good education. We'll have some serious moments, some fun moments, but I hope you walk away learning a lot tonight. I'm a 40-year flight instructor with a gold seal, and on the side I have this airline gig to help pay for my GA habits. Tonight's episode, all the episodes actually are brought to you by AVEMCO. I'd like to give a special thanks for them. Not all insurance policies and premiums are the same. As the only direct writer in the air market, AVEMCO never uses third-party insurance agents and instead connects you directly with an aviation underwriter in their Frederick, Maryland office, ready to solve problems and approve coverage based on what you fly, how you fly it. I've experienced that firsthand, sadly to say, when I was younger, and I met the aircraft rudder with the hangar door. AVEMCO is very helpful at that time. They can give you fast quotes and competitive rates. I can guarantee that. And personalized policies are easy to read, tailored to you. Be sure their phone number is on our website. Be sure to get a free quote and mention the SCHIFF Show, and you'll get a discount from them. Let them know you're a listener of our show. So again, thank you to AVEMCO for making this possible. You'll also receive Wings credit. All episodes of the SCHIFF Show are eligible for FAA Wings credit. There is a Wings user guide in the course materials. It's also on the FAA Safety Team website, just in case you're unfamiliar with the program or new to it. Wings credits also apply toward a flight review. They can get you some leniency with the FAA and discounts with your aviation insurance. Not to mention the most valuable part, what you're going to learn from taking the courses and the investment in your own safety. Tonight you can use the chat button, and if you click that button at the bottom, you can see that the chat thing will open up, and then you can log into the chat. And also the Wings credit button is also on the main page. We're happy to find that so many of you find value in our programming, but the FAA safety website does bottleneck after one of our programs. And a lot of you have experienced that. And for that, I'm sorry. But that's a byproduct of being popular, I guess. It's our program, not me. But you guys are making that happen. I appreciate it. I suggest that maybe you think about waiting an hour before you take the Wings credit quiz, or maybe even take it tomorrow. I guarantee you the quiz is not that hard. You'll be able to do it, even if the material is a day old or so. But you might save you the frustration of the FAA Safety Team website being bogged down at that time. To use the chat, once again, I started telling you here, if you click to join, then enter your name. You can post your questions. Please be kind in the chat. Participate all you want. That's the social part of this, and I appreciate that. We'll try to keep our eye on that. If questions come up, we'll try to answer that. Generally, I'm not going to be monitoring the chat too much. You can use keywords and search in there for certain things, and some of the words are even hyperlinks, which is really cool. So we'll get on with it. Welcome again to another SCHIFF Show. Every episode has these 5 segments where we'll review an accident. We'll look at some procedures or FAR AIM topics that go along with that. Then we'll discuss some training, which is really techniques, and then get into some technology that can help us with relation to that accident. And we'll have our game show quiz at the end. Tonight's topic is Think Right for a Safer Flight. And on this episode, we'll be examining the human side of aviation safety. But first, we'll start with some trivia questions after I introduce you to our wonderful guest who I actually have in studio, Aaron Dabney. He's got his own flight school and runs a flight school and teaches at Baylor University. He's teaching this topic at Baylor University, right? To some extent, for CFIs, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we have a standalone fundamentals of instructing class that we stood up about a year ago, and that's so much of what that course is talking about the issues we'll be discussing tonight.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I'm really eager to hear some of your input. How did you get to start your own school there? Speaking of the human part of this, I'd like people to get to know you a little bit.
Last semester in grad school, had a friend that I had done some safety pilot work with, and he knew that someday I wanted to get a CFI and do some instruction. And I was thinking, maybe when I retired, and of course I was in my late 20s then, and we had lunch at the IHOP in Waco on the Frontage. I'll never forget it. And he looks at me with a straight face and says, "So what if we started a flight school?"
Oh, no kidding.
I laughed and he laughed and he said, "No, I'm serious." So we worked together for about a year and a half and went on to work for the company that bought him out, and then went on my own in 2013. And the whole time I was an adjunct lecturer at Baylor teaching their intro class. And so I actually was just offered the opportunity to begin as a full-time lecturer there this coming fall. So really excited about that.
That's fantastic. I've often thought it'd be a lot of fun to be an adjunct instructor. And if I take on one more thing right now, it probably would suffer badly. So I'm not going to yet. But one day I think I'd like to teach kids. I know that I've seen some products from your school in my own right seat, because when they say they come from Waco, I ask, and sure enough, one of them was one of your students. And I got to tell you, put out a good product. So it's really
you
cool.
Send them back if we don't.
Yeah, I will for sure. I'll hold you to that. One of the things that I wanted to ask totally slipped my mind, and
that never happens.
Yeah, that's the beauty of a live program. Well, anyway, we'll get to it. When we think of things, we'll talk about it. We got a lot to cover. So let's just get into the trivia questions. We're going to give them to you tonight without the answers. The first one is the number of thunderstorms that occurred. That tonight will have something to do with thunderstorms, so that's kind of why I'm bringing these up. But the number of thunderstorms that occur daily over the surface of the Earth is approximately how many? You may be surprised to hear this. It was not quite what I thought when I guessed on this, but if you picture the entire Earth and thunderstorms flashing daily, how many do you think there might be? And you might be answering in the chat. We're not going to give the answers now. I just want to get you thinking about that. I know some of you are Googling it, and I'm probably going to look that up while we're doing the program, and that's okay. We'll see the answers at the end. The next question is, a pilot can obtain a rough estimate of the movement of a thunderstorm by referring to the wind velocity at what altitude. You can look at the wind velocity and see what direction and speed that flight attendant, thunderstorm. What's on your mind, Aaron? Well, you can get a gauge for where that thunderstorm is moving, the direction and velocity, speed of that. What altitude will give you that indication? We'll show you that at the end as well. Third question is, thunderstorms often penetrate the tropopause and extend thousands of feet into the stratosphere. It's often said a lot of the weather's in the tropopause. So is this true or false? Do thunderstorms, in fact, penetrate the tropopause and extend thousands of feet up into the stratosphere? So think about that one. Is that true or false? The fourth question is, drum roll, a pilot boarding his airplane sees a bolt of lightning in the distance. The associated clap of thunder is heard 18 seconds later. The distance to the thunderstorm is approximately what? And we know that sound travels a lot slower than light, so there will be a gap in between the time you see the lightning and the time you hear the thunder. And the longer that gap is, the further away it is. So you need to know what the difference is roughly. And there's a rule of thumb, and when we show the answer, we'll give that to you. On a side note, I kind of have a fun question that I was having lunch with Dad yesterday, and he asked me, he says, why is it that when you hear thunder, you see lightning, it's just a flash. But when you hear thunder, sometimes it can be rolling and clapping, going for seconds and rolling for a few seconds rather than just an instant. Why is it? And I thought, wow, that's a good question. The lightning happens instantly, but the thunder rolls on for several seconds. Why is that? He explained it to me, and I tell you what, I never fail to continue learning from Dad. He explained to me that when the lightning hits, the sound is coming from all different parts of the lightning, so the distant part of the lightning gets to you a little bit later, and that's why you continue to hear it. You hear the first part, which is closest to you, and the part of the lightning bolt that's further away, it takes a little bit longer for that sound to get to you, and that's why you hear rolling thunder. So if you were to have a horizontal lightning bolt, then you'll have a big difference. If the bolt came right at you, the sound would be just like a clap, just like as fast as the lightning.
That's the one you don't hear that gets you anywhere, right?
It's the one you don't hear that gets you. Exactly. All right, question 5. St. Elmo's fire is a luminous discharge of static electricity that appears and sometimes in an aircraft during flight and during long, strong electrical fields, especially when in clouds. I've seen this. And when you're in proximity to thunderstorms, sometimes you'll get that. Who is St. Elmo? St. Elmo is a character in a Rob Lowe movie, patron saint of sailors, or was St. Elmo a meteorologist? That's why we're talking about this. is. Stay tuned till the end of the show. You'll see the answer, and you're also going to see a great image and video that we've got of St. Elmo's Fire, because many people have never seen it. The last question, we're going to do 6 today. Which state typically experiences the most days of thunderstorm activity during the 3 winter months? Louisiana, Florida, or Oklahoma? 2 of those seem obvious, 1 not so obvious. But again, bear in mind, we're talking about the winter months and which state experiences the most days of activity, thunderstorm activity during the winter months. We'll give you that answer and some more fun stuff at the end of the program. But tonight, let's get to it. We're going to be talking about thinking right for a safer flight and looking at the human side of aviation. It's the softer side. It's the stuff that is hard to read in books, and it's the part that I think we're having a lot of accidents because of. So we're going to take a look at that. It reminds me of the poster that hung up in the TWA interview room when I was hired there and in our training center that said that the most important wings on the plane are on the pilot, which I think, I was asked about that in my interview for the airline job, and they said, what do you think about this? And that really was the first time I got digging deep into the human side of why the pilot is so important. When I also brought this subject up to AVEMCO, they were very excited about it, and they made me aware of a study they were involved in a project called the Airmanship Education Research Initiative, the AERI. And they funded it, and it was spearheaded by Colonel Bill Rhodes, who taught an ethics class in the Air Force. And he also involved in the research was Cirrus and King Schools. They got involved with that as well. The study asked what is the common denominators of safe pilots? There are some safe pilots, there are dangerous pilots. It was interesting that I was told by one of the people at AVEMCO that when people get into accidents, and bear in mind, they talk to a lot of people who get into accidents, more than the rest of us. But people will generally say, yeah, we knew that person was going to get in an accident one of these days. And lo and behold, it happened sometimes. But you also hear that pilot was a great pilot and they were a great person. And I think it depends on, who you ask, whether you get a subjective answer on that or not. But so the study asked that, what are they? And it concluded that who one is and what one cares about and what they value is a bigger predictor of an aircraft accident than just their behavior. So that really got people looking into the human factor side and the decision making and a lot of that we'll take a look at. They did find that some traits of superior pilots that they discovered are listed here. Humility, they are true airmen. They fly as airmen fly. They have nothing to prove. They're committed to doing the right thing and exercise maturity. They demand quality in the maintenance of their aircraft, in their own operation of their aircraft. And they're self-educating. Guess what? That's you guys, because you guys are here. You're self-educating. We always want to learn more. And I think that desire to learn more is because we don't want to crash an airplane. We want to stack the deck in our favor, so we learn as much as we can. And that's why you guys are watching tonight. It's why you want the wings credit. You self-educate yourself. The people we need to be talking to are not attending tonight. Right. And this is a problem that I'm like, what do we do about that? How do we reach those people? They're not going to watch this webinar. I'm going to implore to those of you who are watching to, when you recognize somebody who might be dangerous or have an attitude that you're going to learn about in the next few slides over the next hour, that you say something, that bring it up. Learn how to do it. Say something to somebody, if not talk to them. It's a delicate area. It's hard to go up to somebody and say, I think you're a dangerous pilot and you're going to crash one day. You can't do that. How do you teach someone who has this problem? It's a bit of a conundrum, but I'm going to leave it up to you guys, and I'm going to ask you and ask for your help in finding these pilots and getting them to have these traits.
And I'll say, whether you think you are or not, if you're watching this, you're a leader in aviation. And that's a responsibility you have as a leader. So we're giving you that commission tonight.
I would agree with that. You are, if you're watching this, other than those who I'm paying to watch. The frightening traits that pilots have, and this is what the study found, is the sort of person one is. It really matters. And the frightening traits that the people who did this study found are careless or reckless attitudes. And we know what those are. We'll look at them in a second as well. Pilots who have an overinflated ego. That's scary. These are common denominators of people who crash airplanes, people who are in a hurry, bad human factors within the system, and people who let their skills deteriorate and don't do anything about it. Also, there are the side is health issues that people have, and they don't address them, or they don't ground themselves when they're really not healthy enough to fly. So with that, let's jump into our program. We'll look at our 5 segments. The first one we're going to look at is a very unfortunate accident. I can't in good conscience call this an accident. You agree with that?
Agreed. Yeah.
There was so many signs. There were so many things. This was very preventable, and I'm just going to call it a crash. This was not an accident. Also, before we look at an accident, this one has not been finalized. There's no final report from the NTSB, and I don't want to be one of those internet rapid response teams that is out to get clickbait and talk about an accident, give you opinions, and educate you about what happened. I will tell you what happened. We'll give you the facts. We'll study those ourselves. I don't want to speculate on the cause until the NTSB comes out with its final investigation after they've concluded their investigation. So it's not out yet for this accident. They're still looking into it. There's more to come. We will learn a lot more as to what happened here, although I think a lot of us can kind of figure it out. At least we can figure out some things that we would not do. The accident was September 27, 2023. There's a great article that's in the course resources called Death by Time Builder by Meg Godlewski. It was published in early October of 2023. The NTSB preliminary came out after that on October 18th of that year. And then Josh Flowers of Aviation 101 made a great video that he could not have said it better. No. I could not say it better than he did. So we're going to actually show you a snippet from that. He came out with that in November of 2023 after the preliminary came out. The details of the crash are that it was September 27 in Kentucky, and it was a Piper Warrior. It was a private pilot cross-country training flight, and the CFI and the student pilot both died. It was the student's first time flying with that instructor as well. So night VFR into IMC.
And then some.
IMC plus. There was a news story right after that accident happened, and I'm going to show you that.
Lachlan and Amber, this report is only 4 pages long, but it does tell us several things about what happened that night in the moments leading up to the crash. We now know that the NTSB is using the flight instructor's Snapchat posts from that night, along with air traffic control records, to piece together a better timeline of the deadly flight. According to the report, 22-year-old flight instructor Junior McKellar of Breckenridge County and 18-year-old Connor Quisenberry of Beaver Dam left Bowling Green for Owensboro just before 10 p.m. Central. It was their first time flying together. Around 10:15, McKellar posted a photo of their flight path over top radar showing storms headed in their direction. The NTSB included a screenshot of that post in their report. 29 minutes later, the NTSB says the pilot contacted air traffic control. The controller advised there was heavy to extreme rain to the west. Despite this, investigators say the airplane continued its northwesterly course for about 2 more minutes until McKellar requested an instrument flight rules clearance, suggesting he may have needed to use instruments to help navigate the plane rather than relying on sight alone. The NTSB says the controller issued the clearance and directed McKellar to go east away from the storms. McKellar then told the controller the plane was, quote, getting blown around like crazy. According to the report, the plane's flight track showed the plane turn to the northwest, followed by a right circling turn. The controller once again told them to go east, and McKellar responded that they were in, quote, pretty extreme turbulence. That was just 5 minutes after the controller warned them about the bad weather, and it would be the last time air traffic control heard from them. Now, the report does not give a cause for the crash, but it does reveal the plane's left wing broke off the body of the airplane and says other parts of the plane were found throughout the wreckage in a expansive 25-acre debris field. Now, Kayla Moody, Spectrum News 1.
Okay. It's very tough to watch that kind of thing. It's horrific, and when I heard what happened, and it's very, very much into the human factor and people. There's a big people factor along with this.
Lachlan and Amber, this report is only 4.
let's see, I'm going to get back here. Josh Flowers' video, he put on YouTube, and it can be found on his, Aviation 101 on his YouTube channel. He does a lot of great stuff. I love what he puts out. But this is a snippet from his video that he became as enraged of most of us flight instructors and educators did, and put out this video, heartfelt video, that I really encourage you to watch the rest of it. Here's a clip of it.
I have written down everything I want to say about this topic right here. It is worded very intentionally and very carefully. On September 27th, 2023, there was a fatal airplane crash. You may ask yourself, which one was that? And it's sad that we have so many in general aviation that we have to ask that question to narrow it down. In Ohio County, Kentucky, a Piper PA-28 came apart in flight after penetrating a supercell. They flew into a thunderstorm. It was a training flight. A student and flight instructor on a night cross country both suffered fatal injuries. The aircraft was ripped apart and the debris field was scattered over 25 acres. I'm not talking about this to go off about what I think caused the crash or what I think could have been done differently. That is the job of the NTSB, and they are very good at that job. At this point, the NTSB has already released the preliminary report, and to those of us who are paying attention, it is blatantly obvious what happened. I'm making this video to talk about a fatal human factors issue that massively contributed to, or dare I say, caused this accident. Relatively quickly after we heard about the accident, a screen recording surfaced through text to us, and within a few hours it was already on public news and in the hands of the FAA. The screen recording is of the flight instructor's Snapchat. He was taking photos and videos before and during the accident flight that revealed a dynamic between him and the student pilot that broke my heart and frankly made my blood absolutely boil. First is video of the CFI shaking his head in disappointment, and then he flips the camera to show the student pilot slowly going through his pre-flight inspection with what appears to be a checklist and a flashlight in his hand. And the caption reads, quote, "Me and this student would not get along if he was my full-time student. I've seen faster at the Special Olympics." Next clip is a video of the CFI tapping his fingers on the fuselage as the student appears to be getting the cockpit ready for this night cross-country. Caption reads, quote, "I don't have to be up at 4:30 a.m. or nothing. Let's take our sweet-ass time and have a conversation instead of getting this 3-hour flight done." Next clip is of the takeoff. Caption reads, quote, "This is going to be a long 3-hour flight with Forrest Gump Jr. Let me tell you this, he is not still the smartest in his class." A clip showing the cruise portion of the flight followed by a photo leads us to the next caption, which reads, quote, 1.6 hours into the flight of me giving it to him straight. Forrest says, "I don't mind you being hard on me. I know I need it." Me thinking to myself, did you really think I cared if you minded? But what I actually said was, we're flying planes, not driving a car. We can't have these weak areas this far in the game. The next and final slide of this recording is a screenshot of ForeFlight showing a few severe thunderstorms along their route. Caption reads, "Headed our way like a group of pissed off hornets." Not long after that, the aircraft requested an IFR clearance, remarked about severe turbulence with the air traffic controller, was advised by ATC to make an immediate turn to the east to get away from the weather, then radar and radio contact were lost.
Actually.
Yeah, that's horrible. It's the rest of that video, I really encourage you to watch. If you can see it online. In the course resources of this program are the text from that is an article I encourage Josh to write to put in our NAFI magazine, the NAFI Mentor magazine. That article of everything he says in that video is published in the magazine, and it's also in the course resources. You can go take a look at that, download it, and read the whole thing. He does a great analysis.
Yes.
We're going to do our own here and talk about the human factors part of that, why this happened. And many people might think, oh, this was caused by a thunderstorm. Well, we've all seen thunderstorms while we're flying, and the hope is that they don't get us. And I don't think that the thunderstorm jumped out and got these pilots. You know what I'm saying? So I just the other day had to go around a lot of thunderstorms as well. So I also was going to show you the full screen, the full video of the post, and it's a minute long. You got the gist of it. I'm playing it right now. But you got the gist of it while Josh was explaining it all. So what I'd like to do now is Aaron and I are going to jump into these posts and look at them one at a time and discuss them. So I'm going to skip ahead for this video and look at the post. So the first one is, me and this student would not get along if he was my full-time student. I've seen faster at the Special Olympics. Now, that just makes me sad. It makes me upset. What kind of instructor is this? What kind of person can say that about another person publicly? What are your thoughts on this when you first see that?
As an instructor, you learn that a student's job is to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what this smells like to me. Is he's clearly made some mistakes. He's clearly going slow in the pre-flight. He's probably asking a lot of questions that the instructor maybe feels are dumb questions. And instead of being educated, he's being ridiculed. And it's beneath, forget about the instructor-student relationship. It's beneath human dignity.
Yeah, I agree. And to do that publicly, and a good friend once said, criticize privately, mm-hmm. praise publicly. You should never criticize someone like this. But also, it's not a criticism. A student isn't expected to know everything. That's why they're there learning from you. And this, anyway, let's move on to the next one. Next one, he says, I don't have to be up at 4:30 a.m. tomorrow or nothing. Let's take our sweet ass time and have a conversation instead of getting this 3-hour flight done. Obviously, it appears to me from that the student wanted to have a conversation or talk about something. The instructor now is exemplifying someone who's in a hurry.
Yeah, impulsivity, classic hazardous attitude, right?
Yeah,
and not leading by example either. What always gets me is the tapping of the fingers in the fuselage, that passive aggressiveness.
Yeah, that puts a lot of pressure on a student. I don't know how much of that the student saw, but the whole world saw it.
Right.
And we'll talk about posting social media in a few minutes from now, but. Also, the other thing that I think about in this post is I have to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I have agreed to teach a student along VFR cross country at night, going up until 10:30. They weren't going to land back at their base until 11.
Who's to blame here?
Yeah, so that is not good planning for fatigue management. I mean, that's I was young once, and I was able to fly a lot more than I should have, and I've regretted it afterwards. But this is not fair to students to pack your schedule this full. And even if you're a pilot, a private pilot, a certificated pilot, not teaching a training flight or anything, getting finished a flight at 10:30 at night and getting up at 4:30 the next morning, that's...
Yeah, Red Bull and Monster can't fix bad decisions.
Good point. Real good point. So the other one was the CFI, he's tapping his fingers in a gesture of boredom. And there's a lot of body language. A lot of communication is done with our body language. And I just think that we're communicating with each other with body language. Half or 2/3 of communication is done through visual. Like if I tell someone that on the phone that, well, I really like your haircut, it doesn't mean as much if they can't see me rolling my eyes when I say it. But you can see your body language says a whole different story. An acting board like that, like you said, he was in a hurry. He's getting bored. And I'm going to mention a little bit of what the FAA tells instructors about that kind of thing. So all pilots. The next post is, he says, this is going to be a long 3-hour flight with Forrest Gump Jr. Let me tell you, he is still not the smartest in his class. Well, without returning and stooping to his level and insulting the instructor on being the smartest in his class, and the irony in the way his posts are worded, it's social media. I get it. We abbreviate. And sometimes we get things wrong. I won't go there, although I just did. Yeah, but it's going to be a long this is more insults. Okay. This is just sad.
I just imagine being the family of this student, and you're 12, maybe 24 hours after learning that your loved one has died this horrific death, and this surfaces on social media. It's just insult to injury in the worst way imaginable.
Yeah. I can't imagine, having my own son find out that he was killed in an accident and then seeing that his final moments were being insulted by the pilot instructor who was supposed to teach him. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Okay, so the next one was, there was a lot to this one. He says, he's giving it to him straight, and then he's quoting Forrest. I don't mind you being really hard on me, So the student is being humble here. He's exemplifying one of the characteristics of a good, safe pilot, a little humility. He realizes his weaknesses, but he may not be as weak as he thinks he is, but this instructor is making him feel pretty weak. And then telling the world that, do you think I care if you mind or not? That's this attitude and the way he was treating this other pilot. This is one of the most hazardous things that we can see. And it proved to be that is the way this flight ended.
It's macho.
Yeah, very macho. And you can't try to lift yourself up. Like, I guess those who can't lift themselves up by skill, knowledge, and the results of the students they put through, they have to beat others down. So they stay at the same level, but their effective raising comes from lowering everyone around rather than raising themselves up and doing the best that they can. That's just, one thing that he did say that I agree with is that, we're not driving a car. Right. And I've often said that. So I will agree with the fact that... But
we've got to act that way if we're going to say it.
Yeah, exactly. He said it, but he didn't act that way. This pilot behaved as though he was getting in the car as well. So that's just horrible. What can I say about that? The next slide, and what's the most incriminating, is this image of where he refers to the pissed off Hornets. And he's telling the world, these thunderstorms are coming into my path.
Look at me, I'm making a bad decision.
Yeah.
In real time, here it is.
It's like that, yeah. And I'll give you the times on this snapshot, and I'll show you what the actual next rad looked like at the time of the accident. But I'll guarantee you these suckers were popping out lightning.
There's no way they weren't.
Yeah. There needs to be an inherent fear of lightning and thunderstorms as a pilot. I mean, I'll drive on the ground all day long near these things. I'll sit on my porch and watch them. They're fun. These were producing hail. They're up to 50,000 feet, and these were some big monsters.
So very organized.
Yeah. And when they got a little further along, they got into the clouds, they got into heavy rain, and that's when they requested an IFR clearance. This is not the place you want to be flying IFR unless you have onboard weather radar. Yeah. The article I referred to from Meg Godlewski, she wrote article about time builders and death by time builder. And when we're referring to a time builder, this is a pilot trying to build flight time by a job of CFI. They're teaching, the student is paying for their flight time, basically. And this one quote I think is fantastic from her article, but the whole article is fantastic. And a lot of flight schools, I understand, are using this article to teach people how to become good instructors. Time builders are the instructors who, although they hold an instructor certificate, are focused on building their hours, not on teaching. They may not know how to teach beyond the test because that's how they were trained. This is particularly common if they went through an accelerated program where the focus is get them and get them out. And one of those pilot mills like that, that's where you tend to see that more. Not all of their pilots are like that, but that's where you tend to see this more, someone coming out who doesn't know how to teach more than just the check boxes. And here they were checking a box, wanted to just finish this cross country because it's a requirement for the certificate.
Yep.
So the flight path from ADSB, here's a video that I took of just kind of surfing around with the flight track on the ADSB data on Google Earth. So there's the flight down, the flight back. That's the whole flight. They went down to an airport 50 miles away or more and did some pattern work for night takeoffs and landings and went back. That's what the next rad looked like actually where they crashed. And we'll just zoom in a little closer on the end of the flight where they were maneuvering or lack thereof. It looks like they tried to make a 180, but you can see they were right in the heart of this thunderstorm. That thunderstorm, which will tear up an aircraft, which proved to be happening.
Yeah. How 25 acres, I think, is a debris field. 25 acres. Imagine that, a Piper Warrior.
A Piper Warrior spread out over 25 acres. That had to be one mean mother. That is just, to go anywhere near that much lightning or to know that is ahead of you, approaching your flight path like a swarm of hornets, and then continue on. I'm having a hard time reconciling the mindset of that pilot, but this keeps happening.
And how scary was that? I mean, what a terrifying final few moments of life.
Yeah, I can't imagine. So the next rad was at just a minute different from the actual crash time. The next red on the left side of your screen, that was the actual imagery 1 minute prior to the accident, 1 minute prior to or after, within a minute. The imagery that he was looking at, that he posted, I should say, the imagery that was posted on the social media was, you can see looks like a half hour, 45 minutes. Is it a half hour?
I think it's roughly half an hour.
Yeah, before that. And yeah, certainly this thunderstorm is moving a half hour later. That was not that far. That entire cross country was 50 miles, so you could kind of get a gauge for that. Looks like it may be 10 miles from the airport. It would only have to be moving 20 miles an hour to get to the airport they're going to in 30 minutes. So I will talk about next rad latency in a second, but that is one of the factors here. So that was the accident. You kind of got the facts. You kind of get the gist of what happened. We'll jump into our next section, which is the procedures. So procedures, I mean FARs, AIM, books that the FAA puts out, stuff that we're taught. In this section, we'll cover the pertinent aspects of the FAR and the AIM and the pilot control glossary and the instructor handbook as well. One of the things I like to talk about, I don't know if I know you've seen these FARs, Aaron, but I call them the threes, the FAR rules of three. And it's not 91.33 times, but this helps me remember the regulation numbers. It's 91.3, 13, and 103. Then I'm going to touch base on the fundamentals of instruction that instructors get. So 91.3, remember, that's piloting command, being directly responsible for the final authority of the operation of the aircraft. So you've got to take that seriously. The second three is the 91.13, which is the careless or reckless. That's the one everybody says, oh, that's what the FAA is going to get you for if they can't find another regulation. Well, I would call this careless, and I would call it reckless. I would call this one both of those. But bear in mind that your actions could be viewed as one of those two things, and always fly as though someone is going to judge your actions, and you have to answer to why it was or was not careless or reckless. The last one being 91.103, pre-flight action, which is most people remember, well, that means I've got to be familiar with all available information and I need to know the lengths of the runways. But there's one more thing in that a lot of people don't remember. What is that?
That's for a flight not in the vicinity of the airport, we need to know the weather.
Yeah, for a flight not in the vicinity of the airport or an IFR flight.
Yeah.
What is not in the vicinity of an airport? I think it's the pattern.
Yeah. I think if I'm outside the pattern, if I'm in the practice area, that's not in the vicinity.
I agree. I think you're in the pattern, you're in the vicinity, but you're required to know the weather, know the forecast and weather, and have an alternate plan. That's a regulation, and that's this one, 91.103. So I think that's very important. Jumping ahead, the fundamentals of instruction is inside the aviation instructor's handbook. Even if you're not a flight instructor, there's great information for you in here as far as attitudes, how you should be. And it kind of tells you what, as a student, you should be getting from an instructor.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's, and we'll bring this up later, but as a student pilot, if you're watching this as a student pilot, this is a great way for you to advocate for yourself if you know what's expected of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Student pilots should advocate for themselves. But inside this book, the FAA teaches and tests instructors on exercising patience with their students. And more importantly, how easily attain goals when a student is progressing slowly, how important that is. There's another section in there that talks about two speeds, believe it or not. And
where have we heard that before?
Where have we heard two speeds before? I think that's a great saying. I think I might coin that. But they do explain the difference between acting hastily and taking your time. And that is not just for instructors. But remember, two speeds. There's slow and screw up. Mm-hmm. That's the way that I define them easily for the Keep It Simple Stupid program. But the FAA puts out this to flight instructors in a little bit more detailed than the way I say it. The book also, gives guidance to instructors regarding abnormal learners if they learn a different way. People learn in different ways. Everybody's has a different way of learning things. Some people like pictures. Some people like to read something. Some people don't learn it unless they're explaining it to you. So this book gives a lot of guidance to instructors on how to deal with that. And slow learners, too. People learn at a different pace.
Exactly.
Just because they're slow doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means they learn at a different pace. It also explains the flaws of rushing through the less exciting material, like pre-flight.
Yeah. Well, and boy, don't we see that. I remember one of the first things I ever did as a volunteer with NAFI was our former program manager, John Niehaus, texted you and I and said, we want to do, I think it was a podcast thing on teaching straight and level flight.
Right.
And I laughed and I was like, that's going to be a 2-minute thing. I think you and I and Bob Mader, I think we're all there. I think we recorded for 90 minutes and John cut it down somehow to 45 minutes. And this is on straight and level flight because of the things that we see. I see on flight reviews, you see elsewhere where guys can't even do that.
Right. A lot of pilots can't do straight and level flight for more than a minute. They'll impress you for a minute. And then the funny thing is when I give a flight review, I'll make them keep doing it longer. I'll just like, what are we going to do next? No, just straight level flight. And they realize it's more work. And if they're not in trim, that's where you're really going to see it if you try and do that prolonged. But especially pre-flight, a lot of instructors will just say, all right, go pre-flight the airplane. I'll be out in a few minutes. What do you think of that?
Well, number one, that's your life too. And you get, it's confirmation bias is what it is, right? You're a large basic flight school. The airplane's flown 3 times today already. It hasn't done anything scary. I've got 500 hours in that tail number. It's hot outside. We're in Texas, 105 degrees in the summer. I don't want to stand around out there. I'm going to sit here and soak up all the AC I can. You go pre-flight. Sorry, if getting hot scares you more than shredded metal, we might be in the wrong profession.
Right. So I'd like to discourage instructors from doing that. And if you have an instructor that's doing that, you're missing out on valuable flight instruction you could be receiving. There's a lot of knowledge. You're paying them for that time. I would try to encourage you to get your instructor to do the walk around with you. On that night cross country, the instructor should be talking to the student about aspects of night flying, what you can't see, what the lights on the airplane, why they're important, walk around and look at it and point things out on the airplane.
If we don't both have dirty hands, did we do a pre-flight?
Right. And the instructor should be teaching during that whole, it's an opportunity missed if the student's out there just pre-flighting by themselves. The aviation instructor has an added responsibility of molding an aviation citizen. A pilot will be an asset to the rest of the aviation community. And they give the instructors a code of ethics is in that book. I'm not going to read them all, but just know that they're there. This code of ethics is very important. A lot of these are very pertinent. All pilots should have these ethics. And also, that's a repeat slide. You can read that again. One of the other things I found interesting as I was skimming through the book is that this picture of a student, insecure and unpleasant training situations inhibit learning. So if you're making a student uncomfortable, you're drastically slowing down their learning.
And I can't count the number of times in the aviation instructor's handbook that concept shows up, whether it's fear of threat or fear of being judged or whatever. This is a major barrier to learning and training.
It really is. Yeah. So the way you make people feel is very important. And I don't let that slip past you. That's all we're getting at. Also, if you're a flight instructor or not, join NAFI. NAFI has a code of ethics that every member must abide by or they'll get kicked out of the organization. Actually, if we find out about it, you probably could. But these are code of ethics. I think if you find an instructor who's a member of a professional organization, it doesn't have to be NAFI, it could be SAFE or any professional organization. It means that they care enough to be that good and have those ethics. At least they get presented to them. As far as the hazardous attitudes, we saw a lot of them in this accident. And so this just proves true that these hazardous attitudes really do cause accidents, pilots who have these attitudes. So just study up on those, be current on that, and watch yourself for signs of these.
John and Martha King always say that most good pilots have some of these working in them, but the trick is don't let it govern your behavior, right? Recognize it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're familiar with them and you read through this, and you'll recognize it sooner. But we all have it at some point. One of these. Yeah. And I think 4 out of 5, I can say we're in this accident alone. Thunderstorms, I mean, I don't know. You said you should be scared of these things.
Yeah.
These should scare a pilot. Driving along, it's a little bit different. But flying in one of these, you see, if you could take a Piper Warrior and spread it out over 25 acres, these should scare the crap out of you, right?
Yeah. I mean, the phrase unsurvivable load factor comes to mind, and I don't know what else I need to think about.
Yeah. The turbulence is it's fantastic. It will tear up an airplane. I mean, even in big airliners, we do not get anywhere near these. We have policies to stay 20 miles or 50 miles, depending on how we're above or below the freezing level, or, sometimes if they're not 40 miles apart, we're not going to go through it. Yeah. So be careful. Just don't skirt them. Get away from them.
Why we keep doing it is
it just keeps happening. Yeah. So it's a a non-starter. Consider a thunderstorm a non-starter. Would you fly toward that? No. That lightning bolt right there, if you read real carefully, says, turn around, dummy. The Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge actually talks about some decision making. And I got a couple exercises. They're pretty quick. We'll just take a look at. But we'll talk about, when you talk about aeronautical decision making, they do define it. Mm-hmm. It's a systematic way. We'll go through these, a couple exercises real quick, and I guess that'll fall under the training portion of tonight's program. So now we'll talk a little bit more about technique. You've heard about what the FAA gives, the FARs, the AIM stuff. But let's take a look at some training and decision making and getting pilots to evaluate a scenario. Scenario-based training really does help. So we'll go through a couple there are a lot of tools in that book. I think there's a OODA loop, the 5P, 3Ps, all these processes for just deciding. And I can't decide which one to use.
Yeah.
The decide model is one.
I think the key word is in the definition of ADM, a system. And I think that's probably where we miss the boat as instructors is we teach ADM like it's this ethereal process. It feels like you're in psych class in college. Yeah. So if we can find a system or two that we can do consistently and reliably, right, I think we've got a better chance of winning.
That's true. And it kind of like you do the same thing every time, right, you're less likely to forget or do it wrong. And that's kind of develop a system for making decisions. And I think rather than going over, you know how to fly an airplane. And at the airline, we used to brief everything we're going to do. And now we've kind of converted from briefing all the normals that everybody knows and we just don't pay attention to because we get bored because we already know it.
Yeah.
Rather than do that, we brief each other on the threats. We say, what's threatening? What are our threats? What are the hazards for this flight? Well, it's nighttime. We're flying in a mountainous area. Okay, how are we going to mitigate that? These are the conversations we're having now instead of, okay, I'm going to rotate at VR and I'm going to climb at this speed and I'm going to fly this. Yeah, we already know all that. It's the non-normals you got to watch out for. It's the bullets you don't see that get you, right? This chart is in the Airplane Flying, or the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. It's in the Risk Flying Management Handbook. But it's really simple and it kind of quantifies the common sense we're talking about. So looking at the seriousness of what the severity of what could happen and what are the odds of it happening. And that's really what we're going to look at. And that's really the simplicity of this chart. So let's look at just one scenario. Let's talk about an airport that has no outs. Okay, you're flying somewhere like Catalina Airport, the airport in the sky. It's on top of a hilltop. It's beautiful. It's fun to fly to. There's no options really. If you lose an engine after takeoff here, this is pretty dangerous.
It's dire.
Yeah. So if you're looking at our chart, if we use that chart that was in the book and we examine so if something went wrong here, would it be, I'm going to look at the big one. Would it be negligible or would it be catastrophic?
I would say catastrophic.
I'd say catastrophic. Yeah. I would say so also. And what is the likelihood now of this happening, of an engine failure after takeoff? Pretty low.
Yeah.
Depending,
I was going to say, I think the fair answer is depends. There's factors there that we hopefully have observed about our airplane.
Right. If you took off with a bad mag and you decided to go anyway, well, now you're probably increasing the likelihood of it happening. If the thing ran rough, if there's something wrong with it that you know of, well, the likelihood increases. But let's say that this is a great airplane. I don't know of anything wrong with it. The likelihood is low. We're down here in this area of improbable, but catastrophic if it happens. Is it worth it? So there's a risk. Is the reward worth the risk?
You had me at Buffalo Burgers.
Buffalo Burgers in Catalina, and that's what gets you. So yes, that risk is worth it. Go get a burger in Catalina. But that's what we have to weigh. If there's absolutely no reason to go there and you're getting nothing out of it, I probably wouldn't take this chance. So let's take a look at a quote that I like, and many of us have heard it. If you haven't, I just love it. Superior pilots use their superior judgment to avoid situations in which they have to use their superior skills. I know that's in one of my dad's books. I think it is not an unknown. I'm pretty sure my dad wrote that, but someone else might have too. So we're going to go with unknown right now, but I know that he has said it many times to me. Second scenario, let's stick with the Catalina Airport thing. Let's say we decided to go, but we're going to go from Camarillo, California, to Catalina. And what are we going to do? What kind of route are we going to fly? This is an island out there off offshore of California. And if you go IFR, one of the common routes is just to go along this airway offshore like that. And I know a lot of pilots that will go direct because direct is the shortest way to go.
Or is it?
Yeah, exactly. It is the shortest distance between 2 points, but is it the smartest way to go? I don't know. What's the distance offshore here? If you measure that the most distant point here, you can see that you are 21 miles offshore. That's more than offshore. It's 21 miles from the route to the airport there. I think that's Santa Monica Airport. So can you glide a 172? Let's say we're doing it at a 172. Can you glide a 172 21 miles?
Need some serious altitude.
You would need a lot of altitude. How much altitude would you need, you ask? Well, I have a handy dandy chart here. We're going off the chart with 21 miles, but if we extrapolate the glide line there, we need to be at 14,000 feet and we can glide 21 miles. So you could spend your whole day climbing, get some oxygen, supplemental oxygen, and make that flight at 14,000 feet. Or maybe there's a better route that you could fly. And that's what we're talking about. Don't take that risk. There's no need to. You can fly via Santa Monica Airport and then Torrance Airport, go through the airspace corridor there. And here you are, let's say, if we measure this, the distance between Torrance Airport and Catalina Airport, Avalon, Santa Catalina Airport is what, 21 miles. You're never more, or 24, I think. You're never more than 12 miles from an airport. And when I've done this, I will teach people to go out, kind of climb it up to an altitude so that they can continue climbing out over the water and get to the 8,000 foot point apex. They can always glide to an airport and then start down. You're never really straight level on this flight if you do it right. And yeah, it's a little bit longer. 172 can glide 12 miles from 8,000 feet. And that's why I mentioned this 8,000 feet is probably a good point to hit the midpoint here. So.
And the moral of the story is that we don't have to have a no to mitigate.
Right.
We can use our head and think of creative options.
Yeah. If you can't come up with an option, you can mitigate, and the likelihood of something is pretty high, and the catastrophic level will be pretty high. Then that's when you say no. So that's just some of the decision making. Also, by the way, this is only 5 minutes longer to fly this route than the direct route. 5 minutes more flight, that's another tenth of flying time. We're all trying to build time, right? So it's 5 more minutes. You can have fun. 5 more minutes of flying time. 1 more tenth on the hobs. Cha-ching. Anyway, let's see. I think that this might be frozen. I see that moved and this one didn't. So there are 3 parties to which we'd like to give advice to students, to certificated pilots, and to instructors. There we go. It caught up. And sorry, our live technology, you got to bear with us and bear with me. Is the weakest link here. So we're going to give advice to each of these people. We'll talk about this for a second. First, let's take a look at student pilots. So students, what advice do you have for a student?
Speak up for yourself.
Speak up for yourself.
You are a customer.
You're a customer. You're paying for instruction. You're paying for a certain quality of instruction. You're paying to be respected as a student as well. If you don't like your instructor, you certainly do not have to keep that instructor. There are plenty out there. And so I would like to encourage you to shop for the instructor you like.
Yep.
Yeah. As for certificated pilots, I have a lot more advice. Student pilots are going to be learning. I'm not going to go through them all because we're having a good time here and we're like almost out of time on CS. So just bear in mind, you can come back to this and you can screenshot this and take a look at the advice we offer. But just, one of the things I like that I've heard my dad say, 10 years from now, will it really matter if I didn't take this trip? No, most of the time it won't. Yeah. be more than a bare minimum pilot I also like. But everybody's here. You guys are here. Those of you watching this are more than a bare minimum pilot, or else you wouldn't be here. Flight instructors, please treat the seat like it's an apprenticeship. This was something you said. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. If you think about all the things that you learn that right seat, you learn just as much, if not more, than your students do. And so if you focus on, hey, if I do this job properly and well, I get all these things out of it. Do you see that your new FOs who maybe took being a CFI seriously perform better?
Oh, yeah.
21 level?
Yeah. I ask, the normal questions always come out. What did you do before? Oh, I was a flight instructor. Oh, okay. And I do see a difference in someone who used flight instruction to build their time and didn't care about it, over someone who had pride in flight instruction. They took pride in what they did, and they gained just as much as their students. I found when I got my CFIs, when I really started learning.
So treat that right seat like it's an apprenticeship, like it's an internship, and you're going to get a whole lot more than those hours and that tenth of an hour by tenth of an hour paycheck.
Right. And so gain the knowledge that you gain by teaching as well. Yeah. I can't emphasize this more, that you stand to gain much more than just the flight time. Yeah. The other thing, ask yourself these questions. Do I get into the airplane like I get into a car? Am I getting in just expecting everything to work? Those who get in with that kind of complacency, get into their automobiles just like get into their airplanes just like they do their automobiles with the same level of complacency, are doomed to regret it. And I wrote about that recently.
And this is an interesting exercise, just real quick, that first bullet point. I've done this with myself. Think about something you've done not in an airplane, a car somewhere else, where you look back and you say, that was a stupid decision I made. Can you catch some of the wrong thoughts that led you in thinking that was a good idea? If you can identify that, it takes some self-reflection.
Yeah.
Maybe you can catch some of those behavioral traps in other areas.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we do a lot of at the airline. Is new part of our training is, okay, what did you do right? What did you do wrong? What would you do differently in post-flight, evaluating some of the things you did? So we all have flights we regret. We did something we shouldn't have. Who's the safest driver out there? I think the car guy, I forget his name, on the radio, he said the safest driver is the one with a cop in the rearview mirror. Preferably not the one with the lights on, but that was the best picture I could find. So it's funny how when we're being watched, we just seem to do a lot better. So just like that, if the FAA is watching you, the safest pilot is one who has the FAA in the right seat, or someone giving him a check ride. So fly like the FAA is watching you, because they probably are. All right. Technology we don't have a whole lot of as far as this. How do we technologize our brains? There are some tools out there. I mean, there's a couple. So we've got the flight risk assessment tools, which are out there, which I think is actually, it's pretty good. It helps to quantify things. We've got NextRad. I want to talk about the problem with that, and we'll get to our final quiz. And then the technology of recording devices in the cockpit and social media. So let's take a look at those real quick. The flight risk assessment tool is really cool. It quantifies common sense by, you take this quiz, you answer the questions, and you guys use it at your flight school.
Yeah, and that's that. Again, the key word here is it provides a system.
Right.
Instead of me having to guess about my risks, I've got it right there in black and white, color-coded, or numerical score. So the FAA's got one example out there, but you can find other frat tools out there online. And we talked about this earlier. It's I won't say it's easy, but if you're good at Excel, you can make your own. You
can make your own if you're good with a spreadsheet. The FAA is a good starting point to give you an idea what it looks like. And basically, with every risk you add, it gives you a score. The higher the score, the riskier that flight is. When I did some corporate flying, they had a policy that if you had a score between, in the yellow, that you would have to talk to the chief pilot, and we're going to talk about how we're going to mitigate
accountability.
Yeah, accountability. If it's in the red, we don't go. We find another way to make the flight. Maybe we can take out, like maybe if it's mountainous terrain we're flying over, maybe there's a route that doesn't have that. Or if there's a lot of water we're flying over, we can pick a different route to mitigate that. You can scan this. This will take you to the FAA's flight risk assessment tool. And there's a link to it also in the course resources on this. There are a lot of them out there. Some you can put on your in-for-flight and all that. NextRad latency, I could do a whole program on that. Mm-hmm. Whether you're looking at, when you're looking at NextRad, you're looking at history. You're looking at where the weather was some time ago, anywhere between 5 to 20 minutes ago. And thunderstorms move, weather moves. So just bear in mind that there is latency to the weather you're looking at. if you have to use that to get around weather, you've already screwed up.
Mhm.
Yeah. So use it for, and I don't know how many manuals tell pilots. So the ones that get it, but they're still getting into these accidents, are using their NextRad, they're using their iPad images to look at, or even XM or whatever they have, ADS-B, and those are all old imagery. The only thing that you can really use to tactically navigate in and out of around thunderstorms is live onboard radar.
Mhm.
That's it.
And you better know what you're doing with that.
If you've already screwed up and gotten near these, please ask for ATC's help. Their capabilities are increasing. Just say, I don't have the ability to keep out of thunderstorms. Can you please help me? And do what they tell you, because if they have the capability to give you that advice, it's going to be better than what you have. But stay away from them. And bear in mind that what you're looking at is outdated. It's tempting to use it because you see a hallway, you see a path around the red stuff or the yellow stuff. And if you're looking at it, I've watched pilots that just, you can't help yourself.
I was going to say, I think it's probably going to be irresistible.
It is irresistible to try to follow that path that you see, but that path is what was there, 20 minutes ago. The weather is probably right there now. And I have some videos that I've taken, and I've showed them in other presentations that demonstrate
Yes. See this.
Recording, there are a lot of good debrief tools. Recording a video or the ADS-B, there's a lot of tracking things that you can look at afterwards with a student or yourself and see how you did. I think that's fantastic. What about recording?
We talked about this earlier. In the biggest risk of recording, and even on the short snippets on that Snapchat, we saw it. You act different when there's a camera on you.
Yes.
We're both acting a whole lot more polite than we normally would.
Right.
When the camera on us here.
Before this camera was on,
oh my gosh,
it was a little bit different.
It was a melee around here. But when the camera turned on, we're sitting pretty, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're joking just a little bit there, just a little bit. But yeah, that's the one thing that you got to worry about. There can be value in that video recording, but you can't let the fact that there's a camera there influence the way you behave. And I think that's a whole lot easier said than done.
Yeah. And so many people are trying to come up with their own YouTube videos, some beautiful videos. There's some fantastic stuff out there. Just be very careful. Don't get so married to that operation and that flight that you're going to come hell or high water to get the shot. Or do what you're going to do.
I mean, at the very least, use something hands-free. Have somebody who's not a required crew member or an instructor on board do the shooting. Let's just be smart about it.
Exactly. And if you're going to post something to social media, wait to see the outcome of the flight first, maybe.
Yeah.
Make sure the whole world's not going to be looking at it and judging you. Make sure it was a successful thing, I think would be good advice as well.
I think so.
Anything else to add on that?
The biggest horror story I've heard so far about the use of social media on a flight was an instructor, fortunately not at a flight school I've got anything to do with, but an instructor ordering DoorDash on short final on a cell phone.
Oh my gosh.
So I'll let y'all make your own judgments on that.
Yeah. A lot of things are tempting to do. The convenience we have these things at our disposal, and 99% of our life outside the airplane is spent using them. Mm-hmm. We've got to be able to separate ourselves from that.
I mean, let's use the airplane as a refuge from all that baloney.
Good advice. I think I'll take that challenge to use that as a way to get away from it. Absolutely. Well, let's take a look at our game time quizzes. Let's look at the answers to the questions we asked earlier. A lot of these questions, actually all of the ones today, came from this old hack. I don't know where he gets this stuff. He probably makes it up. Don't let the last name fool you. But thank you, Dad, for writing all these questions. He's got a ton of great questions. Some of them are outdated, but most of them are fantastic. Some of them are trivia. Some are very good knowledge to have. The first one was the number of thunderstorms that occur daily over the surface of the Earth is approximately, what do you think?
Well, I know I was wrong. So I'll tell you, I thought 10,000, but I know I was wrong.
Yeah, I was too. It's surprising. 50,000. The answer was D, 50,000 daily. That's a lot of thunderstorms. There's times when I think I've had to go around every one of those in one flight. Okay, the second question was, a pilot can obtain a rough estimate of the movement of a thunderstorm by looking at the winds at what altitude? Oh, I think I went too fast there. I didn't give them time, but they were thinking about it. 10,000 feet.
They already knew it, though, didn't
they? They did.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. 10,000 feet look at the wind's direction and speed. That's pretty much what the thunderstorm's going to be doing. But we also have now technology that we hit play on the radar image, and it kind of shows us. A lot of radar summaries will also show you the direction of movement and kind of where it's going to be 10, 20, 30 minutes from now. It's a lot of great stuff out there. All right, thunderstorms often penetrate the tropopause and extend thousands of feet into the stratosphere. Is that true or false? What do you think? I thought all the weather's in the tropopause.
Yeah,
that's what
but they get pretty big.
They do get pretty big. The tropopause height changes, though, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It actually comes down. It's lower in the wintertime. Mm-hmm. It's higher in the summertime. So in the summertime, maybe it's going higher, and that's allowing the thunderstorms to build higher. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Is this true or false?
Let's find out.
And the answer actually is it's true. They do extend thousands of feet. The amount of overshoot into the stratosphere is dependent upon the strength of the updrafts and the stability of the lower atmosphere as well. Let's see. Question 4. A pilot boarding his airplane sees a bolt of lightning in the distance. So you see it. That's the visual light. Speed of light. Came at him at the speed of light. The associated clap of thunder is heard 18 seconds later. The distance of the thunderstorm is approximately what? So you see the lightning, and I don't know, growing up as a kid, especially with my dad, every time we saw lightning, the first thing we did, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1000. And then we can tell if it's getting closer or further away by whether the time increases or decreases. The rule of thumb is it's about 5 seconds for every mile, approximately. So in this case, there's a little bit more than 3 5-second intervals. So it's going to be 3 point something miles away. In this case, the answer was C, 3.6 miles. All right. We're getting there. Question number 5. St. Elmo's fire. Okay. We described what it was. It's a luminous discharge. It's really fantastic. You're going to see a picture of it after this. A static electricity that appears on the aircraft, sometimes inside the aircraft, when you're flying in or near static or thunderstorms or in the clouds. And then the fool fooled you with the question, who's St. Elmo?
If they're millennials, they think it was that doll they wanted for Christmas when they were...
Oh, yeah, not Tickle Me, Elmo. Yeah. That's Tickle Me, Elmo, right? Yeah, that's funny. I remember that. No, it was not. Was it a character in a Rob Lowe movie? Wasn't that St. Elmo's Fire? It was, in fact, a Rob Lowe movie. So I could see where that might be a tempting answer. Now, the answer to this one actually is St. Elmo was the patron saint of sailors who observed this phenomenon as static electricity dancing along the masts of ancient sailing vessels. Reducing airspeed usually lessens the intensity of this. Well, I speed up because it's really cool. It goes faster. Of St. Elmo's fire. Now I'm going to show you an example on this next slide. Thanks to a friend for the images, and we'll just say a friend also got me the video. So this is what St. Elmo's fire looks like on your windscreen. Literally looks like this. And when I get first officers who are new to jet flying and they see this happening, they about do something a brick. And they're like, what is that? And it's really kind of fun to watch a new pilot who hasn't seen this before experience it. I challenge them, put your hand on the windscreen. Just touch it. You've seen those balls, right? Those Faraday things. Yeah. You actually you can put your hand there. You'll get some static buildup. You'll feel the hair stand up on your arm a little bit. By the way, if you're flying along and you feel the hair stand up on your arms and the back of your neck and all the little hairs start standing up, get ready. Turn all your cockpit lights to bright, full bright, and get ready to shield your eyes because you're about to get hit by lightning. I've had an aircraft hit by lightning, and twice. Both times the hair just starts standing up. You're building up a really strong charge. It's not dangerous. The airplane can take it.
You're not grounded. It just goes through the nose, goes through the skin of the aircraft, and out the tail. But in any event, that's just some advice. Full brights on all your lights when you are about to or think you might be in the vicinity of lightning. Try not to be, of course. But the 727, believe it or not, had thunderstorm switch. That you would turn that on, and it just took every light to full bright in the flight deck. I don't know if anybody knew that, but that's just another piece of trivia. I want to win a bet with that one.
You can. There's a thunderstorm switch. What does that do? It makes every light in the cockpit bright because when you see a flash of light like that, you're blinded, just like someone took a picture right in front of you. Yep. All right, the last question, question 6. Let's take a look at this one. Looks like it did load there, but not there. Which state typically experiences the most days of thunderstorm activity during the 3 winter months? So during the winter months, there's the end of December, so January, February till March, end of March. Which of these states do you think experiences the most days of thunderstorm activity?
I bet I know what they're going to guess.
I went right for Florida. I would say it's Florida, wouldn't you? I mean, Oklahoma is, that's all that Midwest summer stuff, Ohio Valley stuff. Got to be Florida, right? Well, the actual answer is, survey said, Louisiana. Louisiana averages 10 days of thunderstorm activity during the winter. That's kind of surprising. It's right on the Gulf there with that warm water. Florida is the thunderstorm leader during the summer when it averages more than 50 days per month. 50 days during the summer.
Let's put a bunch of 141 price goals there.
Yeah. Good idea. It's funny that there are. So in conclusion, let's just go over our final thoughts. The first one is, no matter where you are, there you go. Mm-hmm. No. The first one is, you're a leader, right? I think you said this.
Yeah.
Was this one of yours? It sounds like
It did. That's I said this earlier. I guess I stole my own thunder.
Okay.
Especially if you're watching the SCHIFF show, you're a leader. But lead by example, and don't be afraid to speak up when you see something that looks iffy, because there's not enough of us doing that. And like you said earlier, the number of accidents that we read reports about where somebody is interviewed by the NTSB and says, we saw it coming, we weren't surprised.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Be the person your dog, if you're a dog person, be the person your dog thinks you are. Be someone to be proud of, actually. Try to be proud of yourself. Fly like your life depends on it. Why? It does. A lot of people don't actually fly like their life depends on it. You think that they just, they get into the airplane like they get into a car. But pretend your life depends on it. And I just blew that one right there. Same thing. I think we beat that one up too. And lastly, these aren't lined up. That's fun. You should see this studio. This is the space shuttle operation at NASA. We don't have emergency takeoffs in general aviation, right?
Yeah.
So takeoffs are optional. We've heard that as well. Now, wartime, there might be emergency takeoffs, or if you want to plan somewhere, you shouldn't. But generally speaking, you don't have to take off. One of the things I really like, as we're talking about human factors and the mushy stuff, is this quote by Maya Angelou that I've learned. This is what she said. People will forget what you did. They'll forget what you said. People will never forget how you made them feel. Mm-hmm. And just keep that in mind. Treat each other with respect. I think that even for an aviation education thing, we all need a little reminder to treat each other with respect. Treat them the way you would want to be treated. If you try to be a good person, you'll probably be one. It's not that hard. It's almost more difficult to be a bad person. And remember that, if it can happen to Rob Holland, that was a very unfortunate maintenance thing. So sad that what happened there. And I just think Richard McSpadden, Rob Holland, these people that I regard as...
Who do we think we are?
Yeah. Who are we to say that we're better than that? Yeah. So enter into this with some humility. Go back and watch this and look at the traits of the pilots we listed earlier who are not crashing airplanes, who are found to be the safest pilots. Thank you so much for joining us. Next month, we will have double the Schiff on the program. We'll discuss some really important stuff, some really cool stuff. We'll look at an accident, and we'll do it in a way that only Dad can do it. We'll have a good time doing it, and we'll do it in a way that you learn a lot. That'll be on July 10th, next month, July 10th, the second Thursday in July. Also, if you are a fan of or watch out of total boredom, Cockpit to Cal podcast with me and Jeff Simon, we'll be on a new platform starting in July. We'll be on the GoToWebinar platform rather than Zoom. My Zoom account has expired, and it's just they want way too much for that. So Jeff already has that. We're going to use that. through his good grace, and just watch your email. If you subscribe to these emails, you'll get all the details you need for registering for that. Thank you so much to AVEMCO, Aeronautical Proficiency Training, for helping produce this, Wings Industry Network, and FAA Safety Team. Thank you, Aaron, for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Making the trip
so
up here
fun.
to do it in person. I love that. We had a good time. And I always learn from you every time we talk. So watch Aaron's, look at his, follow him on Instagram, man. He writes some of the best stuff, some really prophetic stuff that I think we can all learn more of this same type of thing.
There's a lot of some Schiff guy stuff on there too.
Yeah, watch out for that. Well, thank you for attending. We will see you guys next month, and have a great evening.
Night.
Good night.